Hello, US history class, and happy Monday. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you all in person today because I need to take care of some visa things that will allow me to stay in Thailand and continue to teach you as the best version of myself. So I'm sorry that I'm not with you all today, but I do miss you all very much. And just because I'm not there doesn't mean we don't have some fun things planned for class today. So first things first, it is Mindfulness Monday, okay? Today, I would like you all to please find the My Journal activity that we worked on 2 weeks ago, right? We are going to begin our mindfulness activity this week with a bit of journaling. So please go ahead and find the My Journal document, the same version that you worked on 2 weeks ago. It's important to work on the same version so that you can track exactly how much progress you are able to make. So please spend the next 10 minutes doing that. Pause the video and work on the journaling for about 10 minutes. All right, everybody, welcome back from that mindfulness session. With that, we have some US history to go over today. So I'm going to share my screen and begin our quick presentation for the day. Last week, we talked about the Americans winning the Revolutionary War. So today, we are going to ask ourselves the question, what comes next? Okay. But before we do that, I want to have a quick conversation about the importance of George Washington. Okay. He was mentioned a few times last week in the oversimplified video as the general of the Americans in the American Revolution. And he is very important to understanding both the mythology of the United States of America and also the reality of the United States of America. Okay? Now, George Washington was the general during the Revolutionary War. But what was his best skill as the Revolutionary War general? It was retreating. Okay? I know that may sound kind of weird. A general's best skill is retreating. Isn't it his job to win battles? Well, most battles for the small American army of farmers against the larger, well-trained British army, there was a very low chance of victory. So a win for the colonists was being able to fight another day in the war. And that's how they were able to win the war eventually, is Britain was like, fine, we give up. We're not going to win this very easily. Let's get out of here. Okay? So beyond retreating, George Washington's amazing leadership abilities were the only thing that kept the army together every year. All right. And his leadership abilities was what caused his army to love him and what caused the American people to love and revere him as well. Okay. Because the reality is the American troops and the American people loved George Washington. He was their hero. He was an American god. Okay. So once the war was won, most people were ready to forget about the whole democracy thing and just make George Washington the king of the United States of America. Okay? But one of the things about Washington, the thing that made him as amazing as he was, is he said no. Okay? An entire nation of people was ready to make him a king, and he said no. All right. When King George III, who was the king of Britain at the time, heard that after the war, George Washington said, no, I do not want to be king, and he retired to go live back on his farm, King George III said, well, if he does that, he will be the greatest man of all time. And that's how high of a compliment he was paying to the guy who just beat him in the war. Now, George Washington did not stay retired forever. Okay, the people, once the United States Constitution was written and the US became an official country, the people begged George Washington to come back and lead them. Okay, And he became the first president of the United States. And he made many smart decisions in his time that would not give the president too much power. Then, after serving 2 4-year terms, he voluntarily gave up power again, and he retired to his farm again, okay? Showing the American people that even this American God wasn't good enough to stay in power forever. And Americans for generations respected Washington so much, they followed everything he did. No other president until 1940s, so almost 200 years later, would serve more than 2 terms because Washington never did himself. Okay, so George Washington has been made into he is the #1 American hero. If you could ask any American who is the #1 hero in American history, they would say George Washington, okay? Because he was this Revolutionary War hero, because he was such a great leader as president. But there are some problems with Washington's legacy, right? The word legacy means the way you are remembered after you are gone, okay? Now take a look at the back of this picture here that I've been showing you of George Washington. Behind him is one of his slaves. So George Washington was racist. He was a part of a racist system where slaves were the people who worked his farm in Virginia. He actually owned hundreds of slaves. So how do we balance this idea of the great American hero who won the war and served as an amazing president with the man who was a part of a racist system and owned hundreds of slaves? It's a very important lesson in American history. That legacy in American history is a complicated thing, okay? And it must be understood from all sides. Because was George Washington a revolutionary hero who helped start this country more than almost any other person in the United States? Yes. And should he be a hero for that? Yes. Was George Washington a racist? Was he a part of a racist system and an owner of hundreds of slaves? Also, yes. And understanding both of those things existed at the same time is an incredibly important lesson for American history, because so much of American history revolves around the idea that America is amazing, American is exceptional, while also some people look past the many problems. So in this class, we are going to be finding both sides of legacy here. And George Washington is a wonderful example of that. Now today, in class, we're going to ask ourselves, the Americans won a war. So what the heck happens now? Okay. There is a graphic organizer that is currently up on Edmodo. Please read through the article and answer each question as you come to it. You may work independently as a group, or even though I'm not there, in the main session as a class, if you would like. Okay. So if you would like to work independently, Teacher Jake can get you into a breakout room. If you'd like to work in a small group, Teacher Jake can get you into a breakout room. And if you would like to work together as a class like we normally do, you can do that without me, okay? Just make sure that someone reads each section of this and make sure you talk over the answers. That's something you're allowed to do, okay? I miss you all very much today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for doing your best. And I cannot wait to see each and every one of you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. I'll see you soon.